How's it, everybody, and a warm welcome to the Web3 show. I'm your host, Philip Kalinko. I'm not joined by Cade Bergman tonight, but I will be joined by Cade Bergman next week. Gonna miss him, but we're still gonna go through all the news, what's trending, what's happening in the NFT space and the crypto space. A reminder that nothing I say is financial advice. I am not a financial advisor, and if you haven't noticed already, the Web3 space is incredibly risky. So always do your own research. In tonight's show, we're going to be looking at the NFT market, the crypto market, seeing what's going on with the marketplace wars between Blur and Opensea. Give quite a detailed update on what's going on the Yuga ecosystem. See what's going on with Pudgy Penguins. They released a very interesting partnership. Talk about the future of YouTube with their new CEO and much more. So let's get straight into it. I'd like to welcome. We've got Frederick here. He says it's his first time watching and posting live on LinkedIn. Nice. Well done, Frederick. Thank you. Lovely to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. All right, let's get straight into it, guys. Market update. Make the screen big, me a bit small, and let's see what's going on. So if we have a look at the last 24 hours on the NFT market, we've got Blur Marketplace doing a whopping $90 million. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that a big portion of this is wash trading. We're going to be talking quite a lot about Blur, but in tonight's show. But for now, at face value, they're saying there was 90 million done in the last 24 hours. If we have a look, OpenSea 17 million. We've got X2Y2 with 1.19 million, Immutable X with 820,000, CryptoPunks alone 674,000, Theta Drop, we did 167,000, JPEG Store 140, and Looks Rare 90,000. If we add it all together, we get 120 million odd. But again, the Blur number does not seem correct to me, and we will talk about that a bit later. If we jump into it and just have a look what's going on in the crypto market in the last 24 hours, we are down about 3% on ETH, just under $1,600. We're down about 4% on Bitcoin at 23,000. We got Solana sitting at $22.88. We got XRP at 37 cents. BNB sitting at $300. So we've seen a very big pullback in the last 24 hours, and week on week, we've also seen a pullback on both Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the stock market, American stock market, NASDAQ, S&P 500 is no different. We've had a bloodbath of a day today, down about 1.5%, 2%. Yesterday was choppy, up and down, ended up slightly, but overall on the week, we are way down on the stock market, and tech has been hit really hard. If we have a look over here, you can see only red. Apple down 2%, Nvidia down 1.8%, and so on and so forth. All right, guys, if we want to jump into it and see what is trending at the moment on NFTs, we do typically see when there's a big drop on Ethereum, and we do also see a big drop in NFT prices. It's usually the shock of it. People get scared, start pulling money out, and 3 or 4% in a day, like we have had today, is substantial enough to achieve that, and we have seen that. So if you look from volume perspective in the last 24 hours, we've got Mutant Apes at number one with the most volume traded, and they are down 8% at 15, just under 15 ETH, 14.9. We've got Azuki in number two spot. They down about 5% in the last 24 hours at 14.25. We've got Other Deeds at 1.8. Board APR Club number four at 68.98, so call it 69 Ethereum. We've got Clone X sitting at 5 ETH exactly. We've got Checks sitting at 1.7 Ethereum. Moonbirds sitting at 6.4 Ethereum. Cool Cats sitting at 2. We got Rekka sitting at 1.1. Pudgy Penguins really doing nicely, sitting at 5.4. Very interesting to see them actually higher than Clone X. And I think actually probably also, what are they? Yeah, they're probably higher than most of our mid tiers, which is quite interesting. They continue to rise. Pudgy Penguins, very interesting to see that. Even higher than Doodles, hey? Doodles at 5.2, and we've got Pudgies at 5.4. Very interesting to see. We've got Valhalla sitting at 1.1. nouns at 25.85. Only One Force finally came out and confirmed that they have been acquired. We know that venture funding is always big for the space, and they are sitting at 1.5 Ethereum. We got Bored Ape Kennel Club at 7.6 ETH. Killer Bears at 4 Ethereum. They continue to rise despite everything else falling. We've got Beans, Azuki's sister collection, sitting at 1.5 Ethereum, and Moonbird Oddities at 1 ETH. So that's your top 20 on NFTs. As we can see, much more red than green, yet we do have some in the last 24 hours that are up, Valhalla and MG Land. If we actually change this to a 7-day, you'll see not much of a difference as far as red versus green. So much more red than green. You do have some big winners in the space, but definitely the majority of collections are down week on week. Again, that's in line with the crypto market as well as the stock market as well. All right, guys, let's get straight into it. Let's have a look at the news. So it's quite interesting now that Dookey Dash is over, that game. There's quite a lot that we can take from it, right? So there was almost 37,000 ETH in sewer passes has already been traded on the secondary market, right? It ran for 2 weeks, and it really did show that Yuga is able to create a mobile version of a game that is fun to play and that gets the captivates its audience. And it's good to see that because, you know, we saw that Activision's president or ex-president of Blizzard, Daniel Allegri, took over from Nicole as Yuga CEO, which was a very bold sign that they are really putting all their chips, Yuga's putting all their chips on gaming. And then, you know, just a few months before that, we had them announce that Spencer Tucker is the new chief gaming officer. And he's also got huge experience in the gaming space. So, you know, he used to be the president of Scopely, which is a very big game development and design company. So it is interesting to see them going all in on the game. If we look at Dookey Dash by numbers, we had the winner announced, and it was Carl Jackson, who's a Fortnite player, and he's listed his pass at 2,222 Ethereum. He can list it at whatever he wants. The real question is, what is it going to sell for? But he won. He got the highest score. I enjoyed this because it's nice to see someone who is not from Web3, so he's a gamer, coming in and being drawn into the Web3 space. And we did see that. We saw a lot of Bored Ape Yacht Club holders who really wanted to get other people to play on their behalf because they either aren't that way inclined to get high scores or they didn't have the time. And so we saw them sort of recruiting the gaming community. And it's really nice because there's usually this sort of divide between the NFT community and gaming community. Obviously, everybody is trying to bridge that gap. But this Dookey Dash did achieve that in many ways. So we have the winner, Carl Jackson. He's a big Fortnite player. He won. And then, you know, we had second and third place. Both of them got 870,000 odd, which is really good. But it did go to show that they are capable of creating a really good game. And, you know, there was accumulated 7.5 million Dookey Dash runs, the amount of times it was played, which is absolutely massive, right? And I think that that's really a good test run to see. So we did have some problems. Obviously, there was allegations of cheating and cheat codes and things like that. It led to Yuga delaying the release of the winner and saying that they would only they wanted to audit those results, and they delayed it by a couple of days. Some people did see their sewer passes frozen as far as cheating goes, or alleged cheating. So they definitely did have some hiccups, but that is something that you're always going to have, especially, you know, if you've got a big prize, you're going to have people trying to hack the game. And look, I hope Yuga learns from it and tries to close any loopholes that might have been there. So where does Yuga go from here? So we see that, you know, they've definitely trying to get a handle on blockchain gaming. We know that in March there should be another gameplay for Other Side, which is really their big gaming push. Remember, Dookey Dash was just a small sort of mobile game, but they have also said that yes, there are going to be further mobile games coming in the future as well. But we can definitely see from all of this that gamification is a big piece of the future of Yuga Labs. And Taka has said the same thing. Yeah, I'm just interested. I'm watching with a lot of interest to see. We do know that they've now, within Dookey Dash, launched a new version of the game where you can lick the toad. And effectively, right, you can play a game and collect as many toads as you possibly can. Um, and if you get a top 500 score with the toad, there will be a companion that you'll get. So it's sort of like an addition to the Dookey Dash. It looks very, very similar when you were playing it. So I'll show you over here what it looked like when you were playing it. I mean, it's almost the same, but then you had the collection of the toad as well. And you can see it's not that blue color, it's more the rainbow color. Um, yeah, so it's nice to see them experimenting. I do think that it's going to be really interesting to see what the future holds as far as where they continue to go in the gaming space and how it's received by different gamers. But that's an update on the Yuga ecosystem and things that you can look forward to. All right, so this last week, we've really had this marketplace wars blow up between OpenSea and Blur. And this has been a massive, massive story in the space, and rightfully so. Just a bit of background, OpenSea, as we all know, was the dominant player in the NFT marketplace space. And they famously kept to royalties, which gave them a lot of respect in the space. So they said, look, the creators are our bread and butter, and we want to look after the creator, and so we will continue enforcing royalties. This was a couple of months ago. And creators and founders of projects really applauded this decision. And it showed that OpenSea was taking the bold stance of standing by what they believe in, and everyone thought that was a great move. Up comes Blur, and they say, come, we're going to reward you to trade on our platform. And they come into this airdrop that we discussed last week, and they end up dropping close to 300 or $400 million into the hands of people who traded. And all of a sudden, almost like overnight, we start to see Blur volume at $50-60 million and OpenSea's volume at 15 to 20 million. What's interesting is before this jump in Blur volume to 50 or 60 million, Blur was pretty much level pegging with OpenSea for the last 3-4 months. So they were, if OpenSea was 10 to 15 million, which is typically where OpenSea has been, we found that Blur was 10 to 15 million. Then this airdrop came. People realized how big this airdrop was, but they got some people who traded a lot got this money. And all of a sudden, overnight, consistently, they've been claiming 50 to 60 million dollars in Blur volume. And then we saw in the last 24 hours that they claimed $90 million. Now, when I say they claim, I mean this is being tracked by independent programs, and we can't refute that 90 million traded in the last 24 hours. The question is, what percentage of wallets are trading that? What percentage of that is actual trading versus just wash trading, meaning trying to buy and sell at similar prices in order to get your volume up so that you get a bigger airdrop for the second airdrop, because we know a second airdrop is coming. So I did look into this, and I was able to find, first of all, an interesting statistic is that 15 wallets, 15 wallets account for 20% of the volume in the last 24 hours on Blur. Okay, so 15 wallets account for 20%. So if we're saying $100 million was done in Blur, $20 million was done just by 15 wallets. Then 50% of that 100 million, so 50 million, was done by just 300 wallets. So what we're clearly seeing here is that this is not mass adoption. This is not a huge amount of people using Blur to trade. This is people who are specifically farming the airdrop, right? So they are specifically buying and selling in order to get a higher engagement and loyalty score so that they get a bigger airdrop in future. And that's what we're seeing. So I think that's very, very important to understand. So that makes this move by OpenSea even more strange, because almost like a knee-jerk reaction, it seems like OpenSea didn't give this much thought. They came out a few days ago and they said straight away, OpenSea fee, which used to be 2.5%, is going to be 0%. So I actually think that's fine. I think that's great. You know what? Why not do that? We know Blur started at 0%. They're saying for a limited amount of time. So great. No problem over there. Blur is now 0.5%. And now OpenSea is saying, great, we're going to be 0%. That's OpenSea's to play with, and let them do that. 100% no problem. However, what they got a lot of problems or a lot of backlash from is this number two, moving to optional creator earnings for all collections without on-chain enforcement, old and new. So that's what Blur is famous for, is that you can choose to give royalties to projects or not when you're at the time of buying or selling. And now we've got OpenSea doing the same. So the whole thing that OpenSea was respected for was the fact that they stood by their beliefs and they kept creator royalties. There was even Ferocious who wrote into them and said, I've been able to come out of a terrible situation because of the royalties. We had Betty from Deadfillers write into them. So, and they took all of that to heart, and they were always the ones who were keeping this, that we will enforce the creator royalties. They've now gone back on that. So they said, not only are we stopping our fee as OpenSea, but we're also stopping your fee as the collection, right? Which took a lot of collections by surprise. And to be honest, I personally don't feel like that's the way to handle it. And also, they've reacted to a volume trading of 50 million, 100 million, which is made up primarily of a couple hundred wallets that are just buying and selling at the same price. The floors are barely moving, and they're just busy trading, because there's no royalties. There's no huge royalties, and the fees are so small that you can literally just buy and sell all day at the same price and make very little, lose very little, but up your engagement that you get a big airdrop in the future, right? And that's what people are doing. So what will be interesting, and what like no one can know for sure, but what's really interesting is what is the real volume on Blur? If there was no second airdrop being promised, what do we think that real turnover on Blur is at the moment? And I would be surprised if it's more than 15 million, because we can see that generally, because of the floor prices being the same and even going down in the last week, that there's not a huge amount of volume of real NFT trading going on. So to think that we trading $100 million means the same as when we were trading 100 million on OpenSea for real with 100,000 active wallets. That's not what's happening here. So I think OpenSea, really reacted too quickly and didn't give this a lot of thought. And they say number three, marketplaces with the same policies will not be blocked by the operator filter, right? So what the OpenSea was saying before is that you, as a collection that launches on OpenSea, can choose to say that you only want your collection shown on platforms that keep creator royalties, adhere to creator royalties. So now that OpenSea is not adhering to it, they've said, okay, any other marketplaces that usually would be blocked for doing what we're doing now won't be blocked anymore. And then they went on to give context. They said, and just in the interest of fairness, I think it is important to go through their context. There's been a massive shift in the NFT ecosystem. In October, we started to see meaningful volume and users move to other marketplaces that don't enforce creator royalties. Today, that shift has accelerated dramatically despite our best efforts. We've worked to defend creator earnings on all collections when others didn't, which is what they were respected for. And when we introduced the operation filter, it was our belief that our on-chain enforcement was the best way to creators to secure the revenue. We thought that we could catalyze widespread enforcement of creator earnings. We had hoped others might come up with more resilient solutions. This hasn't happened. In recent events, including Blur's decision to roll back creator earnings and the false choice that they're forcing creators to make between liquidity on Blur or OpenSea, proves that our attempts are not working. Today, 80% of the total ecosystem volume does not pay full creator earnings, and the majority of volume has moved to zero fee environment. And they use June analytics, but again, they're not looking at the fact that a lot of it's farming, and so on and so forth, guys. So they went on, and they've really had mixed responses here. My response was very simple. Like, my feeling on all of this is OpenSea has had 2 years where they had a first mover advantage, And they really didn't take full advantage of that first mover advantage like they should have. They could have done an airdrop a million times over. They should have launched a token a long time ago to reward people who have spent millions on their platform. They chose not to. And on top of that, they've been quite greedy with their 2.5% fee. They could have reduced that fee in November when they say they started to see competition. They could have reduced that at that stage to 1% or 0.5%. But to go from 2.5, maintain 2.5, and then all of a sudden to zero overnight, it seems like a weak play, right? And like they're late to the party and now they're panicking. It's always good to see competition in any space. It's important because it makes the leader, which was OpenSea, and arguably still is. If Blur's just wash trading at the moment, who knows? The real interesting thing is going to be where that volume settles after all these airdrops are done. But OpenSea did have that majority, and whether they still do or not is to debated. And it took them a long time to innovate. They sat on their arms for a very, very long time and didn't do much about it, right? So we now have a full-on war between the two of them. We've now got Blur coming out, right, in response to OpenSea, dropping their creator royalties and their own royalties. We've got Blur coming out and saying that if you go onto their Blur marketplace and you prove your loyalty to Blur by delisting all your NFTs off OpenSea, you'll get a higher loyalty, which will lead to a higher airdrop. And they've even got one button that you can push on Blur's site that will allow you to delist all your NFTs off OpenSea in one click. So we've really got Blur playing quite dirty. I guess all is fair in love and war, right, and business and all the rest. But they are playing dirty. This isn't their first dirty move. When OpenSea tried to have that filter in place that didn't that allowed people who created a collection on OpenSea to say they didn't want this collection to be listed anywhere that doesn't enforce royalties. We did see Blur very easily able to work around that and still list those items. And we've since also had Blur come out and say that they're no longer going to be showing any NFTs that have been marked on OpenSea as stolen. They're no longer going to be showing that on their ecosystems, that they believe that the stolen NFT policy is not fair, and they're not going to be showing the fact that OpenSea marked it as stolen, which is very interesting to see. And that's a whole nother discussion and a whole nother debate. But that's what we're seeing. That is the latest that's going on here. Very interesting times indeed. When we say that we early, this is what we mean. I mean, I can remember when everybody just wanted a Nokia phone, and then everyone only wanted a BlackBerry, and now everyone only wants an iPhone. And that can always change. Or a Samsung, to be fair. Obviously, you get your two camps, right? That can change. So what's going to happen in the marketplace wars? No one really knows. Something I do think I would be looking at if I had a decent sized project, I would be looking at very, very seriously, would be my own marketplace. Because what are you going to do? You can just have any of these marketplaces overnight say, we're not keeping to your royalties. We don't care. Sorry, we're not giving you your percentage royalties, and we're not enforcing it. So there's only one answer, is to make your own marketplace. Now that only works if you're an NFT collection with a significant amount of demand, like one of the mid chips or high chips, because otherwise no one's going to visit it. But we do, it's quite interesting because we do know that CryptoPunks has always had their own marketplace. You can't even trade CryptoPunks on anywhere else except for their own marketplace. And we do know that Yuga also has their own, even though they haven't pushed it much. But that would really be what I see happening, is the big blue chips are going to really push their own marketplaces. They might even launch their own tokens if they don't have tokens already, or reward people for trading on their own marketplace where they can enforce their creator royalties. And then you're going to see the likes of a Yuga that used to be a customer of OpenSea's now becoming a competitor to OpenSea. And that's the problem with how OpenSea has reacted here in not enforcing creator royalties. Up until this point, OpenSea had the support of the blue chips because they knew that they were safe. If they said that they wanted a 5% royalty, OpenSea would enforce that. Well, that's gone. And I think that this is very significant. And even if OpenSea comes back tomorrow, and they're not gonna, but even if they do, and they say to us, listen, we made a massive mistake here, we should never have done this, they've lost that trust of the creators that they will keep to the royalty system, and that is going to hurt them forevermore. So a massive, massive mistake, but it's going to be very interesting because we definitely going to see marketplaces popping up left, right, and center for the big projects like your Doodles, CloneX, things like that. Let's have a look, guys, what we've got over here. Sorry, just been talking. Let's jump into the comments a bit, see how everyone's doing. Last one was John Ronan. Nice to see you, John. I think OpenSea will come out with an incentive to counter blur. For sure, I think they will, John. I mean, there's even hints at a token. Obviously, a token opens them up to SEC scrutiny. People are really not sure what to do at this point of time with a token. They're sort of waiting to see whether that makes them a security or not. And we are seeing that, and we do realize that launching a token can potentially opening them up to that. But yeah, they will try and incentivize them and do things, but they'll always be seen as the people who are responding instead of the first movers. They had so long to be able to do right by it. We've got Crypto Dream here, having a chat with Janex. Let's see. Are you confident royalties will be enforceable in the future? Not very confident. Yeah, it's the truth. The only way to do it is to do it at a contract level to ensure that it is enforceable, and that needs to be done more for people who want that, and a way that it can't be worked around. It's going to be interesting to see. But what's really big and going to be happening is the airdrop 2, right? So a lot of people said that the airdrop number 1 was not going to be big. I maintained from the beginning. I brought this to you like 4 months ago when Blur came. I said, you guys, it's worth doing sign up, do a bit of trading. So now they've come out, they said the second drop is going to be at least 300 million, which is equivalent to what was dropped now. However, what you do have to realize is that anyone who didn't take the first airdrop seriously, and because no one knew before the first airdrop how much they would get, but anyone who didn't get much from that is hearing of some people. I mean, there were some people who got over $1 million, right? They now are going to partake in the trading on Blur for the second airdrop, which means more people are going to be vying for the same amount of money, which means everybody is going to get less, right? That's just the way it's going to work here. So obviously we do know that now that people have seen, oh wow, I could have made 10 ETH, I could have made 50 ETH or whatever it may be. They're now all starting to do it. So a lot more people, same amount of money means less money per people. Also, like I showed you in today's numbers, 15% of 20% of Blur's trading is 15 wallets, 50% is 300 wallets, which means, 300 people are going to get at least half of this 300 million, which is very important to take note of. We can also say, look, they're definitely going to tease this out as long as they can, Blur. And the first airdrop took 3 months. So no one knows when the second airdrop will happen, but I imagine they will try to tease it out. And I think we could work on it being approximately 2 to 3 months, because they do want to, okay, we're going to be giving $300 million. Let's get as much trading in as possible to cover as much of that as possible. So if you think about it, I mean, if they're doing $100 million a day, which it remains to be seen whether they'll be able to maintain that $100 million a day. But let's just say they're doing $100 million a day, and they're making 0.5% on that $100 million a day. That means that they're making 500,000, right? 100 million, 1% would be 1 million. Yeah, so they're making $500,000 a day. So on their 0.5%, right? So $500,000 a day in 10 days, that's going to be $5 million. In a month, that's going to be $15 million. So yeah, 30 million, $45 million in trading fees alone will be made if they continue doing the sort of volume. And this is 10 million, guys. Need some help on the math here. 100 million. Let's do this. 100 million. I've got a calculator here. Let's share my screen so you guys can check me. It's got to be more than that. So 100, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 100 million times 0.5% equals. Oh, that's right. 500,000. 500,000 a day. Very interesting. So they're going to airdrop 300 million. And that's where the venture funding, they are going for a venture funding round. They valued at approximately, or trying to be valued approximately $1 billion $5, which is incredible to think that they didn't even exist, 4 or 5 months ago. We've also seen that, they are, and we've known this from the beginning, they've got some big names in the space behind them, and they really are built for traders. That's their thing, right? They really built for the traders. So their whole platform and the way it's set up is made for bulk buying and traders in the space, the whales in the space, opposed to the guy buying the one himself. No, they don't charge 0% anymore. They charge 0.5. When they launched, it was zero. And for the last month or two, it's 0.5% their fees. But when they launched, it was 0%, but they've been charging half a percent for at least the last month now. So yeah, guys, very, very interesting. The second airdrop, very interesting to see how dirty they're playing, saying that, let's just jump onto their website. Yeah, I keep talking about their website and how you can do certain things on there. I just want to show you what I mean, the loyalty. I won't ask for a password, I don't think. Let's just stop sharing just in case. Let's do that. Okay, connect run it. Okay. So I'll show you. I'm going to show you where the loyalty can be upped by delisting everywhere from Opensea in one click with one transaction fee. I'm not saying that you should do that. All I'm saying is that they are going aggressively over Opensea, after Opensea. So here they're showing you what I was telling you, the flagged versus non-flagged, and they're not going to be showing that anymore, whether it's flagged or not. Here you can see your Blur Season 2. My listing loyalty is 50%. Your current listing loyalty is 50%. And then there was a place here. If you say go to portfolio list, and then you can actually delist in one button from everywhere. I'm not seeing it exactly now, exactly where it is, but it definitely was somewhere where you could do it. But you can see here, whereas in the olden day, the picture, or not in the olden day, like OpenSea, the picture is the main thing, right? That used to be what we all used to buy NFTs for. Now the picture's tiny. It's not about that. The important thing is, the volume, the floor price, things like that. The picture doesn't matter so much anymore, right? And the bigger thing is like the data, and that's what you can see by the way they've set this up. Is you actually have to toggle in order to get it big. But this is how it starts, and you get to see the important things like the last sale, the top bid, and so on and so forth. So look, it's more for traders. I personally prefer the OpenSea interface, just for myself. Maybe I'm just used to it more. However, I think that these guys have really done well to give OpenSea a run for their money. Who would have thought that someone could come as the underdog from behind, and at the moment at least equal OpenSea's real trading, right? Because we have spoken about the fact that the current numbers are definitely a majority of a handful of people doing it. So that's it, guys. And then we did see that Moonbirds and Proof are down even further. After I did get quite a lot of comments, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was news that, they said at the beginning of 2025, so in less than 2 years' time, in one of their town halls, they said that they will no longer be giving anything or no longer be forced to give anything to proof holders. So basically putting in an expiry date on utility, right? And now we've seen that they've cancelled their conference. They were going to have the conference. A lot of people were really looking forward to that. Remember, Proof and Moonbirds was very much an ecosystem about getting to know other people, networking, community of high-end people that are good contacts and things to have, right? And so on and so forth. So we've seen here that they've cancelled that. Kevin has apologized, but he says that he won't be having it. That there wasn't much demand for their conference. Now, there were a lot of things here. First of all, they were charging an absolute fortune for the ticket. Even if you held an asset from the ecosystem, there was a charge, even though it was slightly less. But, the truth is that I don't know what's happened to Kevin. We do know that I've got my own feelings on the matter. I'm not here to bring down anyone. My pure thing is to say how I feel. My loyalty lies with the viewers, and I have no fear or favor of anyone in the space. Which is a nice position to be in. I don't owe anyone anything, and I'm happy to say how I feel. My inkling, my inkling. We know that Kevin's got hacked for a huge amount of money, like millions of dollars. He lost a fortune of NFTs about a month or two ago. And since then, he sort of seems like he's not interested. I think and I can understand this. I think that he's fed up with the space. I mean, can you imagine building $2 million portfolio of assets, right? Anyone watching this believes in NFTs an asset. A lot of people in the world don't. And all of a sudden, in one click, having it completely stolen from you, years of building up a portfolio. Can you imagine if that happened with your stock portfolio? Or if you went into your bank account and overnight there was nothing there, and it was taken from you with no recourse, right? You'd be pissed off with that bank, or you'd be pissed off with the stock market or whatever. And I think that's what's happened here. I think he wants out. I think he wants out of the space. And we've seen a couple of things since that happened. So the first thing was, like I said, him putting an expiry date, even though there was no mention of that before. The second thing now we're seeing is one of their biggest things. Their conference has been cancelled, officially cancelled. And the third thing that we saw is that they were looking for someone now to take over some of Kevin's roles. They're actively looking for people to run certain things in Discord and the public side of it, which all says to me someone who's trying to take a step back, right? But I mean, people are really, really upset. I mean, this guy had a moonbird tattooed on his arm, and he's saying that's the only thing permanent that he's going to have left of the whole thing. And you can understand why. Here they were promised certain things. The conference was one of them, and unilaterally that's been taken away. It reminds me of the same way that they did it, to be very blunt, with the CCO. In the very, very beginning, Moonbirds on their website, when you bought one, said that you have the rights to that image. And unilaterally, he himself went and said, oh, sorry, we've made it, not sorry, we've decided to make it CCO. Meaning all of a sudden, this picture that I thought was just mine can be on any Chinese clothing brand or anywhere. Anyone can use it. And I have, as the owner of this image, have no right on it. And for me, that was when I got out of the ecosystem. Those who were following me then would have known, and that didn't sit well with me. But so we've seen this continue, just canceling things unilaterally, yeah, definitely going as the thumbnail says, from bad to worse in the proof ecosystem. Unfortunately. All right, from bad news to good news, we've got Pudgy Penguins who are making all the right moves. We saw that they're sitting at 5.5 Ethereum. They're sitting higher than Doodles at the moment. They're sitting higher than Clone X, which is absolutely incredible. So the latest news, the latest catalyst of a whole lot of different catalysts that Luca Nets, their new founder of the last year, has had, is that they will be launching using Retail Monster, who's got a huge experience in toys and physical collectibles. They've partnered with Retail Monster. Let's play you this video to be able to get Pudgy Penguins toys into toy stores. Similar to what we're seeing with VFriends, with VFriends using their IP to create merchandise and toys and really build a brand around their characters. And we're now seeing the exact same thing happening over here, which is great to see. Really, really bullish and really good. And we have seen that the floor price has increased since then. They're going on to say, with a network spanning major retailers and representing brands like Disney and DreamWorks, we're ecstatic that Retail Monster will be on this journey with us, help us make Pudgy Penguins into a household name, and really bringing the Pudgy Penguin IP to the masses. Retail Monster will also serve as our licensing agent and will provide Pudgy Penguins with licensing opportunities for their extensive connections of world-class brands, bringing more and more of your penguins to life. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to their website. And if you jump on their website over here you see Retail Monster. And here you can see some of the brands that they represent: Crayola, U2's, Gearbox, Emoji, Electronic Arts, and so on and so forth. So really bullish, really good to see. I think it's, anytime a brand or company or NFT project in this case sees where their strengths are versus their weaknesses and says, you know what, we aren't in the toy game, but we want to be in the toy game. Let's partner with a massive name in the space, a retail partner who's got huge experience and connections in retail stores and building brands and IP out. Let's partner with them and let them run with it on that side. Obviously, we will have our own guidance and our way of doing it, but let's partner with them. That's not our strength. Let's focus on our strengths. And I do think that that's really important, and for any company to do, NFT or otherwise. And it's good to see Pudgy Penguins has done that. We did see with Cool Cats trying to become a gaming company, how that hasn't worked for them to date. It would have been much more bullish, like they have done now, is to partner with a gaming company, which they have done recently, but they try to do it on their own for a year. Whereas Pudgy Penguins from the beginning, look, we're not doing our merch, we're not, retail experience in retail. We're going to partner with retail monsters in order to do that. So yeah, I think that's cool, and we've seen the floor price make a big change as a result of that. Something else that I found really interesting. So we've got the Titanic. We all know that movie. I mean, I don't know, maybe just me because of my age, but when I was, I think, about 15 or 16, the Titanic came out and it was the biggest movie that everyone spoke about and watched and whatever. Either way, before the movie, there was a ship called the Titanic, a beautiful ship, the biggest and best of its type, that hit an iceberg and sunk. Just to give you guys a bit of background. Well, now they've come and they've got some real life artifacts from the real Titanic that are left, things that were found in the shipwreck. And they're going to be minting those artifacts as NFTs and launching a collection of 5,555. So that's really, really cool. To see that that there's a use case for NFT technology. It's not the first time that we've seen physical items being linked to NFTs. We have seen that various times. I mean, famously with Nike with their Murakami shoes, but also a lot of I've seen it with alcohol companies. That your NFT represents a small ownership in a very expensive bottle of whatever vintage wine or whatever it may be. So definitely not the first, but definitely quite cool to see that they're doing that. So here's the summary of it. Venture Small Finance Holdings will structure the tokenization of the IP linked to the artifacts. NFTs will be offered to accredited investors to fund ongoing research, preservation, recovery, licensing, and exhibition of the assets. Holding an NFT will offer you exclusive benefits, including access to seminars with historians, VIP events, and exhibitions. It will also provide a means to interact digitally with other RMST content. Beyond that, they're still planning a Titanic DAO to welcome members to the community and get their input as well. So yeah, definitely going into Web3 quite big, and yeah, very good to see. I like to see it. In some not so bullish news, we've got a federal judge ruling that NBA Top Shots is or was indeed a security. Now, this is a landmark ruling. We're still being so new to the space, unsure of what the legislation is around them. Are NFTs securities or not? Are NFTs that have a token launched with them or alongside them more so securities or not? We really don't know. And we're waiting for guidance. We're waiting for case law to really see whether they are or not. So here we know that NBA Top Shot was on the Flow blockchain. Now the blockchain was or is a private blockchain by Dapper Labs. And it's now been ruled by this federal judge that NBA Top Shot wasn't, the NFTs themselves were indeed securities. Um, so yes, I mean, this is not great for the space. I'm not sure whether they can appeal this or not. So I'm not sure how high it's gone or not. But the investors claim that under federal law, the NFTs do constitute a security, and the court found that Top Shot Moment NFTs constituted an investment contract and therefore are securities. Also, furthermore, according to the court, Dapper Labs has devised a plan in which they guaranteed investors' profits. The profits were guaranteed, in inverted commas, by selling NFT packs at lower prices and advertising the significant profits made by others through the sale of the NFTs on Dapper Labs marketplace. The court further said that investors dependent on Dapper Labs' managerial efforts to develop the marketplace and maintain the blockchain, since the NFTs would not exist without these efforts. How did Dapper Labs react? Dapper Labs argued that NBA Top Shot NFTs were not securities, as the buyer controlled their own portfolio, so the buyer made a decision over which NFTs to buy and trade and when. Still, the court rejected this argument, as Dapper Labs have control over it because it's their own blockchain. What does this mean for NFTs? As I said, it's a significant ruling for the NFT space because private blockchains have become most popular for businesses, and this ruling shows that there are potential risks. Private blockchains pose security risks for fundraising and issuing of tokens, and companies offering NFTs need to consider whether their offering will be subject to security laws. Finally, the ruling highlights the need to comply with security laws when offering tokens on a private blockchain. So yeah, I mean, again, we're early guys, and this sort of stuff does need to be hashed out, and we need to know, whether or not it will be considered a security or not, and what makes it considered a security. And here we do have a lot of that. We see that because it was their own blockchain, their own private blockchain, and marketplace, that there was tokens released to them, that there was the promise of a future reward at a higher price than what you paid. All of these things made it a security. I think it does give a lot of people insight into the way that the courts will look at this, and it will help projects to be able to say, okay, you know what, let's not launch it with our own token, or let's not launch it on our own marketplace, or whatever it may be, or private blockchain, but to avoid it being a security, or let's just comply with it as a security. It's okay if something's a security. You just have to follow security law with it and make sure that it's adhered to. Yes, there's more red tape, but that's okay. So, just know what you're dealing with and decide accordingly. So, yeah, we're definitely learning as we go along. Another person learning is the YouTube has got a new CEO. But the nice thing is that Neil Mohan is a big NFT bull. He has previously outlined potential use cases for NFTs on the leading video platform YouTube, which we've said for a very, very long time. I mean, I've got videos dating back over a year saying how amazing blockchain technology would be for YouTube. You can even search it on my space. So nice to see that he agrees. And I also for music, I've been saying that for a very long time because we all know that when music went from CDs to MP3s, and artists lost out on their royalties, similar to what we're seeing now with NFT artists losing out on their royalties. But the blockchain really can solve that, with music. If it's written into the contract that every single time that song or video is played, that the creator gets a percentage, and that's in the contract of the smart contract. There's no way that every time it's played that someone won't get that, right? As long as that smart contract is written properly, and airtight, then that would solve piracy in the video and music industry. So yeah, very interesting to see. We know that Susan, who served as YouTube CEO for 25 years, and has done incredibly well in building a massive media company, that arguably has taken over mainstream media, and even if you don't agree has done that yet, will do in the next 10 to 15 years for sure. Has now stepped aside, and yeah, we now have Neil Mohan coming in, and it's just nice to see that he is bullish on NFTs, and that he does see the use case and understands the technology, which is really cool and nice to see. All right, guys, well, that pretty much covers it for tonight. I did miss Cade a lot. There was a lot less banter, a lot less, backwards and forwards. If you guys want, and I'll stick around for a little bit, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have in the chat. You guys feel free. And while I'm waiting to see if there's anything there, I will just look back and see what we got here. My friend Crypto Dream, always giving great input. A little young, probably 10. Okay. So I was 15. So yeah, I mean, I'm 40 now. Crypto Dream, you're about 35, right? I think it's right. Nervous about the toys. Let me see here. The, so what we're saying here, I thought that it was the royalties, not the marketplace fees. Let's have a look at that. Let's have a look once we got a chance. Let's have a look at that. No. So he's saying here, list something and hover over the fees box. All right, so let's go to my portfolio. I don't really want to list. Okay, let's list this. Marketplace 0%, royalties 10%. Oh, I see what he's saying. So this particular one has to have 10% royalty from the creator. I actually hear what you're saying completely. Let me check something else here quickly. Just a different random collection. List and edit. So if I say 0, can I do that? I made it 0. So royalty too low, minimum is 0.5. So 0.5, and then let's hover over it. Yeah, he's right. 100% right. I was wrong. Sorry about that. So yes, the 0.5% is royalties going to the collection and not the marketplace fee. The marketplace fee is 0%. Wow. Oh, so it's going to be interesting to see where they're ever going to get there. I mean, obviously they can increase that at some stage, but so if I put 15% here, does all of that go? Yeah, all of it goes to royalties. So they're not taking any fees at the moment. So they just, that's weird. Weird, weird, weird. But they have updated the fact that marketplace is 0% on Opensea now, which is interesting. Very interesting. Thank you for pointing that out. You're 100% right. Thank you. New comments. Enjoyed watching. Thank you, Crypto Dream. Enjoyed having you. But Chanson, thank you, my brother. Good having you as always. All right, guys. Thank you. Remember to look after each other. The most important thing is it's better to be kind than to be right. Went with the kids somewhere today, and I said to them, "You can't just take something. You got to ask permission." And there was a guy there that said, "No, don't listen to your dad. It's easier to ask forgiveness after the fact than to ask permission before." I completely disagreed. My boys found that hilarious. But yeah, I don't know why I thought about that, but I did. But be kind to each other, guys. Thank you for joining. I look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place for another awesome show. If you haven't already, like, and if you haven't already, subscribe. See you next week. Thanks, guys. Ciao.